Hi everybody, it's Ajanette and I'm here to show you how to navigate your library website in order to find an empirical article, which is a research study where they have directly gathered information or collected data, analyzed that data in order to answer a specific research question, and then evaluated the data in order to conclude whether their expectations of the research were accurate or inaccurate. This is an important part of any type of scientific discipline, including psychology, because we build our knowledge on empirical data and research that's collected. So I want you to understand how to locate research studies, how to critically analyze those studies, and how to make informed decisions about not only your opinions about psychology, but also in life based on the data that's provided to you. So in other words, I want you to be critical consumers of information. So this activity will allow you to do that. The first thing you need to be aware of is, you need to go through our library databases. Some people just try to go out into Google to find empirical research or to try to research a topic. And, that has a lot of information. We are in the age of information, but we're also in the age of misinformation. So be very careful about just relying on anything that you find or any search results that come up through Google. You want to make sure it's empirical or observable scientific data on which you're basing your decisions. And the source is really important. It should come from a credible source that adheres to the scientific process, like a research institute or an educational institution that adheres to the same scientific protocols. So for our purposes, as a student here at MSJC, you do have access to what we call scholarly databases, where they subscribe to various journal publications, and they're able to help us find empirical research. So go onto our web page, go over here to library. Now I am a little partial because I am a Menifee Valley campus instructor, so I always use Menifee, but you can use the San Jacinto campus too. You want to go to articles and databases, and EBSCOhost is probably the best one available for you as you move on to university and our discipline. PsycInfo is very common. You're going to put in your key term for what you're looking for, and maybe for this one I want to look at attachment styles. That's very common in psychology. I want to do an advanced search. I do want to say attachment styles again because it just cleared it out. Couple of hints just to be aware of so you can make sure you are in fact collecting empirical data and scholarly data. First thing is I'm kind of, it doesn't make sense to review an abstract of studies I don't have access to, so I click on full text. So it will only pull up searches that give me full text. Then also it needs to be a scholarly peer-reviewed journal. And then finally, you probably want to consider more recent research, because if you're relying on research from 30, 40 years ago, we have new and more current information that may have invalidated that research or maybe even supported it. But we certainly want to be using more current research. So it's good to start for like 10 years or newer. And then if your search is too narrow and you don't get enough options, consider scaling it back and going to a little bit earlier. But anyway, so based upon those limitations, full text, scholarly journals, and then a limitation, I want to, I'm going to just put into 2016. Now I have everything I need, and now I want to click search. And even with those restrictions, I have 47,000 results. So I may want to go back and I want to just find only the most recent ones since maybe 2010 to 2016 to see if that narrows my search. again full text, again scholarly peer-reviewed, and attachment styles. And then, oops, did I get that? 2010 to 2016. I hit the wrong button. I hit reset. I'm supposed to hit search. Okay? And that's going to narrow it down to 29,000, which is significant. So what about attachment styles am I interested in? And maybe I want to say attachment styles and relationship success. And let's see if that narrows it down. It drops it to 13,000. I can go down further and I can say adulthood, and maybe that'll drop it down further. 2,000. So now I just want to start screening. That's still a little high, but maybe one's going to stand out. The role of attachment and stigma and the relationship between stress and attitudes. That's South Korea. Maybe I want to look at how it's going to affect interpersonal regulation and close relationships. That sounds interesting. But you can just go through, you can click on the link. It'll take you into an abstract of the article, which is a summary of the article. Decide if it's something that interests you, and if so, you can print the PDF and save it to your hard drive. So you will need to find an article to analyze and critique for our class, and you'll do a blog entry for the first learning activity. But if not for our class, this helps you find research-based studies so that you can make sure you're using appropriate academic sources in your college education, because from this point forward in college, we only use academic sources. Google is not an academic source. Wikipedia is not an academic source. So we want to rely on empirical research studies that actually collect and analyze data. So each of these studies, and if I could just go into it just for 1 second, so bear with me, each of these studies will have a lot of things in common. You'll always have their title. It's the title of their article, who's actually writing the article, the university that they're representing, the journal that it's published in, the year that it's published. This is the journal number and issue number, and these are the page numbers of the article, so that's really important. You'll need that for like your reference page or your works cited page. Your abstract is a little summary of the study and what was done. You're going to have an introduction that's going to lay the foundation for the study and give you the critical information about the study. You're going to have a methods section that's very similar to a recipe, and it's going to tell you exactly what was done in the study, what ingredients they used, what tools they used, who their participants were, how their participants were divided, what each participant experienced. So they're going to take you through information about their participants, procedures, the measures that they used, and the method they used. You're going to have a results section, which is the statistical analysis section, where they tell you what methods they used statistically to analyze the data and what their findings were. Did it reach what we call statistical significance? And that's a really important term. Sometimes this can be in another language that we don't quite understand. That's okay. Read through it anyway so it's familiar to you and you can become very comfortable with the language. Then in the discussion section, after they're done with the results, they actually present the results in kind of just a summary form using plain English without the statistics. So up here is all their evidence. If you're a Law and Order buff or a CSI buff, this is what it's showing, you know, the calibration of the materials, all that kind of stuff. And then the discussion is, was it a match or wasn't it a match? And it'll tell you that. The discussion also will analyze the results further. How do they confirm or maybe refute existing research? What maybe we want to do differently? Should we repeat this research? Are there other areas that the research needs to be expanded? Are there any ways that we should improve upon the design in the future? And then application, what can we do with this information going forward? So that's all really great information. And then finally, a reference page. Sometimes if you need multiple empirical sources on the same topic and you're having a hard time finding other sources beyond the one that you're reviewing, consider using the reference section of the article you already have and you know you like, because that might lead you to other related studies that they are using. But be very careful about not quoting their quote of someone else. In other words, you're analyzing this author's work. You're not analyzing this author's opinion of another author's work. If you want to analyze that other author, go to the reference section, find that information, go into EBSCOhost or PsycInfo or another database and pull that study directly. Don't use what we call secondary or secondhand sources. Make sure you're sticking to primary sources where you are reading the study directly yourself and interpreting it yourself. Otherwise, it's just like the grapevine. We might be misinterpreting someone else's interpretation. So in order to avoid those mistakes and challenges, only stick to analyzing the study and the methodology of the study that you're reading directly. So I hope that clears up how to find an empirical article, what an empirical article is, and then what you're going to do then for your assignment is follow the assignment instructions posted on Blackboard, and it'll also give you an example. I always post samples of what your end result should look like. So you'll be responsible for finding your own article on a topic that's of interest to you, and then analyzing that article, and then submitting the assignment based on the sample I provided. Let me know if there's any questions. Try to choose a topic that's fun and interesting to you, and hopefully we all learn a little bit and grow from this activity. Enjoy.